Lars and the Cool Kids, the good Lars episode. I've said several times that I'm not a huge fan of Lars and his overall characterization, but that I don't dislike him. That the reason I'm not a fan is because he gets put in all of these situations where he is given the opportunity to grow as a character, and yet he never seems to. In this episode, we actually get the first inklings that he might be able to do otherwise. Now, granted, there are several other episodes down the line where he doesn't develop as a character when he's given the opportunity, but you could say that's fairly realistic for a real person, and the human inhabitants of Beach City have always felt like they were supposed to be more realistic than the gems in multiple ways, so I guess that kind of works out. I don't particularly like it because I don't think it's good writing, but that's just my opinion. Real quick, yes, there will be spoilers in this review, of course, I almost forgot to say that. In this episode, Steven and the gems head to this kind of secluded little lake somewhere a little bit outside of Beach City where Rose Quartz, when she was alive, I guess planted some moss either there or at the top of a nearby hill. They're never quite clear exactly where she planted it. But for whatever reason, it is now here at this lake, and it is a danger to people because it will try to latch onto you if you get too close. And Rose knew how to move it to the top of that nearby hill that I mentioned, which is where something happens that makes it safe again for a while. But the other gems don't know how, and they need to work out a plan how to move it, I guess. So while they are in the process of doing so, they put up police tape because they think that will keep people out long enough for them to figure out a different solution. And they certainly have fun with it. They kind of turned placing the police tape into a game, which was pretty neat, but you know it's not going to work. Otherwise, we wouldn't have an episode. So meanwhile, Steven decides to go get lunch at the pizza place, and Lars is there waiting outside for a group of kids that he considers the cool kids in town to come out and hopefully notice him. And this is why I like this as a Lars episode. Because in this episode, it characterizes Lars as someone with genuine anxiety. I know, because I used to behave this way around people myself, and I have some anxiety issues myself. So you see Lars, he is trying to become a part of their group, but he is too scared to just go up and talk to them. Steven's not. So he walks right up to them, says, hey, me and my buddy Lars want to hang out with you, and so they invite them to go hang out with them, just like that. And this is the proper introduction that we get for these characters. It is Jenny, who is the twin sister of the other girl who works at the pizza place, Sour Cream, and Buck Dewey, the son of the mayor. And we have seen them before. We just didn't know who they were yet, which is, as I've mentioned before, is a really cool thing that this show does do from time to time. So anyway, they hop in Jenny's Pizza-mobile, which I guess is the delivery car from the pizza place, which wouldn't they need that? Should she have really taken that? But either way, they take it, and they just so happen to decide they want to head up to that same lake where the moss is growing. And Steven, he doesn't know how to explain what it is and why it's dangerous. So he can't just tell them, hey, don't go into the water because of such and such reason. And before you know it, the three cool kids have jumped in the water, and they started getting the moss on them. He manages to stop Lars from going in. And together, the two of them are able to get the other three to the top of the hill where the moss blooms into these beautiful pink flowers with little gemstones in them. Great. One more thing for the unexplained gem life form column. Do I need a counter for that too? Actually, regarding these flowers and a couple of the other unexplained gem life forms, I do have a theory coming up. Just keep that in mind. Which is why I'm not going to dig into talking about them much here. So anyway, the moss blooms into these flowers. The cool kids are convinced that Lars brought them to this really neat spot, and they become buddies. And while it's a little bit neater of a bow to put on the situation than if it were, say, a real case of anxiety, I still think it works fairly well to show that Lars does grow as a person here. Because at the start of the episode, towards the start of the episode, when he bumped into Steven, he was nice to Steven. He didn't want Steven, stepping on his efforts to hang out with these kids or whatever, but he was nice to him. He treated him well. And even by the end, after Steven tells Lars where the moss came from, and Lars is now kind of blaming Steven for it, when Steven calls him out on it, when Steven calls him out on being such a jerk all the time, he actually steps back and he accepts it. He accepts it and he works through it. And I feel like Lars still has a really long way to go as a character, and I feel like we need more episodes like this for him to get there, to get to that point. Instead, we keep getting episodes with him and Sadie screwing up their relationship and then still somehow ending up together. I don't get it. Give us more solo Lars episodes. And while you're at it, give us more solo Sadie episodes. We need more of those too. Either way though, this is a really good Lars episode, and it's overall a decent episode of the show. It gives us another thing to talk about, that being the Moss. It introduces some new characters who, while they seem a little irresponsible, are definitely good people, and that's proven again and again, not just in this episode, but later on. The first example that comes to mind is the episode Joyride, where they stand up for Steven, to Garnet, of all people. And overall, I like these characters. I like Steven's interactions with them. I like Lars's interactions with them. And I do like this episode. But guys, if you have seen this episode, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.